with Minnesota Recovery Connection.
We'd like you to listen to our show, Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution. It is on Saturdays at 10 a.m. on AM 950.
On the show, we discuss topics about addiction, understanding substance use disorder, the many pathways to recovery, and finding your personal journey.
Listen to Redefining Recovery Saturdays at 10 a.m. and find our podcast on your favorite app.
Step into a world of financial empowerment with the Do Different Better show. I'll be your host, Elaine Rasmussen. Join me Sundays at noon on AM 950 as we do a deep dive into wealth education with topics like investing, real estate, and entrepreneurship. No nonsense, tell it like it is, keeping it 100 for everyday people like you. Tune in to get practical insights to rewrite your financial future. So each Sunday at noon, let's do different better. You can hear Do Different Better anytime on your favorite app. Learn more about me at socialimpactnow.com.
I'm having a really hard time lately, and I'm worried no one will understand what I'm going through.
I feel so alone. I wish there was somebody I could talk to.
If you're looking for support, Mental Health Minnesota is here for you, with connections to others who have also struggled with their mental health and can provide support and resources. Services are anonymous, confidential, free of charge, and open 7 days a week. Connect today at mentalhealthmn.org or call 855-HERE-FOR-MN today. Sponsored by Mental Health Minnesota, the Minnesota Broadcasters Association, and this station.
This is Andy Otto, your host of Twin Cities Pride Amplified, inviting you to join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. as we talk to Ryan Fouts from Reclaim, a youth-focused nonprofit that centers its work around LGBTQ mental health. We will be talking about everything from the challenges our youth are facing, ideas for self-care, and how to seek out the right care for you and your loved one. Please join us this Saturday at 3 p.m. right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for some light rain tonight with a low around 33, Wednesday partly sunny with a high near 47, and Thursday sunny with a high around 49. Mavericks Real Roast Beef in Roseville sets the standard for savory satisfaction. Experience the perfection of their Philly steak, turkey bacon, avocado, and more. Elevate your meal with freshly fried fries or onion rings. Visit mavericksbeef.com or stop by their location in Roseville off Lexington Avenue. Mavericks Real Roast Beef.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, any cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local and national Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. They are. This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Clinic, or NAC, on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Hey, I see what you did there. Awesome. Hey, we are still here in New York, and it's storming all over the whole continental United States. So we're hunkering down here. We're going to start out, hey, with Wendy with our sacred animal section, and then we have some sad news, but also some good news. Hey, welcome, Wendy.
Yes. Hey, everybody. Hi, my name is Hanaji Hihani. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level, and it's always my pleasure to do that. Yeah, so Robert and I do have very sad news. Our cat Lucy, who many of you know and who have seen on the show and who have heard her on the show, because most of the time when we are in St. Paul in our studio there, during the animal section, she just usually busts down the door and walks in and would start to meow. So a lot of you got used to hearing her. But unfortunately, 4 days ago, Lucy went over to the Rainbow Bridge. She was suffering from kidney failure for many years, probably over a little over 3 years. Robert and I were taking care of her for that. And it was also sad because it was her birthday. She had just turned 18. So it was her 18th birthday. We weren't home. She was staying with Jelaine, who is Robert's daughter, my stepdaughter, and our son-in-law, Micah. They stay at the house with her. Jelaine had called us up very upset that, Lucy had declined fairly rapidly, and she really thought it was time. So, of course, we trusted her explicitly to make that decision because we know how much Jelaine and Micah love Lucy. So, yeah, sorry to say that we're going to miss her a lot. She was with us for 18 years. We adopted her when she was 5 months old.
Right.
And she lived with us for 18 years. So it's going to be really hard when we get back to St. Paul to adjust our lives to not having her around, because she was a little cat, but she was a big presence. She was always into everything, and she was always wanted attention, and she was pretty cuddly and very, very, very vocal, as everybody knows. She was a very vocal cat. In fact, the day that I went to adopt her at the adoption event, I walked by and she stuck her paw out of the cage and kind of grabbed me and was meowing. And that's how she got my attention. And there was this, 5-month-old little kitten, and she was meowing like crazy and really reaching for me, like, get me out of here. I got to get out of here. Don't leave me here. Like, that's what I felt like she was saying to me. And at the time, we had 2 cats already and 2 dogs at our house. And I texted Robert and I was like, there's this little kitten here. And Robert, what do you think? I really think I like her. And what Robert said to me was, well, you should get her, because really, what's the difference between 2 or 3 cats?
Yeah.
So I said, okay. And I got her that day. Put her in the car, and I don't know.
She pooped in the car too.
Carrier, you just like walked out with the cat.
Yeah.
And the cat was in the back seat of my car, and I was bringing her to your work to show you
to school,
and she pooped in the back seat.
We should have known by then.
I'll never forget that. But,
well, one of the things too I wanted to mention that we had Mickey and Pancho, Tommy and Princess and Lucy, and that was our 2 and 3. And Wendy, because I'm in mourning with our original cast of characters, minus Clyde, Wendy cut my hair on Wednesday night or Thursday night. So being in mourning, I cut my hair, and I appreciate that, Wendy.
Yeah, it took 2 days. I cut it the first time, and I didn't do such a great job. And then we went to my family's house for Easter, and my step niece is that's what she does. She does hair. So I had to ask her for some advice. So she kind of showed me what to do and where to cut and, how to do it. So then when we came home that night, I cut it again, and it looks much better. But yeah, Robert cut off his hair. I mean, his hair was long, like down the halfway of his back, and now it's above his shoulders now. So that was a big, a lot of hair to cut off.
Yeah, appreciate it. And us natives do that. We cut our hair when we're in mourning, and I felt like we were really turning a page in mourning with our with our Lucy, who'd been a big part of the show, like you said.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit. We got like 3 minutes left here.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what we did last night.
Yeah, so last night I was really excited to go and see Dr. Jane Goodall. So Dr. Jane Goodall, as many people know, she's well known for her study of chimpanzees. She spent many, many years, decades in Africa studying chimpanzees, and she's a conservationist and animal welfare activist. This is a picture of Jane Goodall, if you're not familiar with her. But she was here in New York a couple of months ago, and I was so disappointed that I didn't get to see her. Literally, I was like in tears because she is like a hero to me. And I was really disappointed I didn't get to see her because I follow her work. I have some books of hers that I've read. And this time she was in Manhattan at the Beacon Theater, which is a pretty big theater. And we got tickets and we went to see her last night in person. And tomorrow is her 90th birthday.
Wow.
So she's 90 years old. And I'm telling you, this woman is just so dynamic.
She ran across the stage.
Yeah, she told everybody, I'm still fit. And she ran, across the stage. And she stood up for 2 hours and gave this beautiful, inspiring, encouraging speech. And she showed a couple of videos. And then they had a Q&A. And it was just awesome. And I'm so happy that we made it. And we went to see her. She is the founder of the Jane Goodall Institution. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to look that up and I'll let you guys know. But everybody should check that out. And it was really great to see her. So she's a great animal lover. She loves the land, people. And she really talked a lot about how it all works together. Like we do on the show all the time, how everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
If one thing isn't working right, then the other thing isn't working right. So it all has to work together. So yeah, it was great.
Well, hey, I just got to say too, we saw our friends that we had a guest on in the city too.
Yes, Diane
and her husband Steve.
Yep.
And the movie that we watched that you can see on all your cable stations, and we rented it on
Apple.
I
think we rented it on Apple. You have to get the name of it so you can tell everybody again. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Well,
The Heart Stays.
Yeah.
Say that again, Haley.
The Heart Stays.
Thank you. The Heart Stays.
Yes, and it was great having coffee with them. Hey, Wendy, go order some food, and you're listening again. Thanks for coming on. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
We are Alusa Nation. We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hi, I'm Chuck Manette, owner of Native Concrete and Masonry. With concrete and masonry adding substantial value to your home, it's always a great idea to repair your sidewalks or just add a beautiful new patio. Cracks or heaving in your sidewalks due to tree roots can be dangerous. Native Concrete and Masonry has helped clients across the metro to make their outdoor space safer and helped increase the value to their homes. For patios, sidewalks, driveways, or garage slabs, go to nativeconcretemasonry.com.
As we gear up for American Indian Celebration Month in May, it's crucial to prioritize our health, especially with celebrations on the horizon. If you start feeling off, like a fever, a tickle in the throat, or heavy fatigue, don't ignore it. Take an at-home COVID-19 test right away. And remember, if you're not feeling well, it's okay to stay home. Your health comes first. A quick note on COVID testing. The Minnesota Department of Health's free COVID-19 at-home testing program has ended. But don't worry, if you're uninsured, you can still find no-cost tests using the CDC's COVID-19 testing locator. If you have health insurance, you might be eligible for free tests or reimbursement for testing expenses. Just ask your local pharmacy or health insurance provider for more information. Stay informed, stay protected. Let's prioritize our health this American Indian Celebration Month in May and ensure our communities and elders remain safe and healthy. This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health. Visit health.state.mn.us.
This is Leonard Peltier. I'm in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, we're excited to have our guest John Poupart on, American Indian Policy Center founder and president. Welcome, John. Good to see you.
Hi, how about you, Robert? Nice to be here.
Good to right on. Hey, you got a lot going on here, and let's talk a little bit about American Indian Policy Center first, and tell our listeners what you're doing now and what's happening.
Well, yeah, I founded the Policy Center after I retired at 25 years at the Department of Corrections, Minnesota Department of Corrections, and we did a lot of work there. I was interested in policy. I came out as a University of Minnesota, and I went to Harvard University for my master's in public administration, and then I got a good look at the governance, and certainly the political arena. I worked on many campaigns, and certainly I ran for school board in Minneapolis myself. Had a lot of good times with Hubert Humphrey and Don Fraser, and certainly got involved in a lot of political campaigns, and got involved in politics myself. And at any rate, got my feet wet, and certainly saw a pathway for our people to become better off through the use of politics, and a lot of our Indian people got the same view of the world as I did, and we saw a lot of people get into office that way, and we have a lot of Indian people today into elected politics, and but I got involved more in policy, and when I saw that we were not really represented very well in the government part of the world, and so, and moreover, we weren't really represented well in terms of our cultural nuances. We were just kind of following the book as prescribed by the Western European crafters, and they sort of converted all of our world into the Western European version of matters, and we had to conform to that, and it really didn't do us well. And most of our disparities, quote unquote, for in terms of human services, and that has a lot to do with politics and policy.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about health, you talk about education, and the child welfare, and all of these government offices. You look at the percentages of American Indian clientele, and that's what I talk about in terms of the disparities. Our people are really represented in those numbers, and a lot of our Indian people are going to work in these fields, in child welfare, in corrections, in the human services, in health, and they're becoming professional people. But what bothered me the most was while they are Indian blood, they have to follow the rules as written by the scholars who are practicing from the book of Western European thought. And my view was that there's nothing Indian about those books. And wanted to do something about that. And that's why I founded the American Indian Policy Center. I wanted us to see how we could change that. And I went to work and we did some research and we went to interviewing the old people as much as we could. And I'm thankful that I did that because most of all of those old people that we interviewed and that we had talking circles and we went to them. They didn't come to us, of course, and we captured their words and thoughts. And it was different, of course, from Western European thinking. And we captured their words and thoughts, and we issued reports. And about 7 years ago, I retired. I'm glad I got what I did, so my computers are full of that and reports. And so now I'm retired, but I'm still doing that, and that's kind of what I'm busy with today at the legislature. Still doing some volunteer work, and I'm still doing some consulting work, and still kind of keeping busy as I can. So that's what Policy Center is all about. They wanted to give an Indian voice in terms of the policies that are being developed, which is, of course, the laws that are being developed.
That's awesome. So these policies now, and especially we've been blessed to have a trifecta here in Minnesota with the governor and lieutenant in the House and Senate passing these bills. And I know you're working on some education, your group's working on some education for our pupils here in the state of Minnesota.
Yes, we have a bill that we've introduced now. We've got some sponsors. Senator Kunish is sponsoring it on the Senate side. And for the life of me, I can't think of the lady on the House side. We have sponsors on both houses. And it'll be here this coming week. But the bill is to provide for giving information to it's in education. It's coming down in the education side, and it provides for an appropriation for funds to develop materials that'll be integrated into the curriculum that embodies American Indian perspectives on environmental education and ecology. The most important part of this legislation is separate parts of A, of course, the mainstream society, and B is the American Indian traditional cultural lifestyles and beliefs. We want to call upon, like we did at the Policy Center, is we want to contact many of our people who have the information and the knowledge, the American Indian cultural views, holistic and otherwise, how Indian people see and know the world differently than the Western Europeans. We want to call upon these folks, the elders and other knowledgeable Indian resource people, to provide for the first time information on American Indians, about the cycle of life that's present about the universe and the world about us. and how all the life-giving plants, trees, animals, bees, birds, creatures, and how we are all interdependent on each other, and that we live as one in this world. We want to take this information and to provide this to the students in the state of Minnesota in the public schools, because this kind of curriculum is not being has not been presented, and we want to share this. Not necessarily that we have a better way, but it's just information that has not been provided, and of course we take pride in this information because it's been good for us for since time immemorial. We've lived by this, so yeah, we want to say that we're not masters of the life, but we're all weaklings because we look at some of the things that are going on in terms of the rising sea levels, the droughts, the forest fires, the weather, changing weather patterns, and the things that we have not experienced in recent years and decades. So we want to help correct that with this kind of information being provided in the public schools.
Well, hey, John, why don't we got to take a quick break here for some pay the bills, but we're here with John Poupart, American Indian Policy Center founder and president, and we're talking about the curriculum he's working on for Native Americans in Minnesota, but also our allies, to learn a lot about us. And I never thought I'd see the day. So, hey, we'll be back with John and Haley. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Doherty Family College at the University of St. Thomas is your pathway to a bachelor's degree. Located in downtown Minneapolis, Doherty Family College offers an affordable education that includes free textbooks, a laptop, meals, career coaches, and a Metro Transit pass. As a full-time Doherty Family College student, you'll benefit from mentorship from St. Thomas faculty, along with paid internships and support from Minnesota's largest private college. Ready to turn your dreams into reality? Apply now at dfc.stthomas.edu. Doherty Family College, your journey to success starts here. At Metro State University, students learn how to change the world their way through in-demand degree programs including healthcare, technology, cybersecurity, and business. Realize your power to change in a learning environment dedicated to equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. Explore 60-plus bachelor's degree programs at Metro State's open house events, online March 28th and in person March 30th. Visit metrostate.edu/open house for details. Metro State University, where learning meets living.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Howl! As we gear up for American Indian Celebration Month in May, it's crucial to prioritize our health, especially with celebrations on the horizon. If you start feeling off, like a fever, a tickle in the throat, or heavy fatigue, don't ignore it. Take an at-home COVID-19 test right away. And remember, if you're not feeling well, it's okay to stay home. Your health comes first. A quick note on COVID testing. The Minnesota Department of Health's free COVID-19 at-home testing program has ended. But don't worry, if you're uninsured, you can still find no-cost tests using the CDC's COVID-19 testing locator. If you have health insurance, you might be eligible for free tests or reimbursement for testing expenses. Just ask your local pharmacy or health insurance provider for more information. Stay informed, stay protected. Let's prioritize our health this American Indian Celebration Month in May and ensure our communities and elders remain safe and healthy. This message is brought to you in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Health. Visit health.state.mn.us.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I want to tell you about a better, more environmentally friendly way to care for your lawn with Natural Lawn. Natural Lawn has been treating Minnesota lawns for more than 20 years with organic-based natural products that feed the soil without unnecessary chemicals. That means an envy-worthy, healthier lawn that's safer for your family and your furry friends. Natural Lawn has no contracts and is 100% satisfaction guaranteed. So let Natural Lawn handle your lawn care so you can enjoy your lawn. More at naturallawn.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for some light rain tonight with a low around 33, Wednesday partly sunny with a high near 47, and Thursday sunny with a high around 49. And look for our Stephanie Miller Sexy Liberal posts on AM 950's Facebook page. If you interact with one of those posts, you'll have a chance to win tickets to both our Sexy Liberal pre-party and the Sexy Liberal event. And don't forget, you can always purchase tickets to the Sexy Liberal show with the ticket link at am950radio.com.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by All My Relations Arts and their current gallery exhibit, O'Keezy, in partnership with the American Swedish Institute, now until April 13th, off of Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis.
Hey, thanks for that. Hey, we are here with John Poupart, American Indian Policy Center founder and president. We're really excited to have you back on and talk about the curriculum you're working on.
Yes, sir. Well, thanks for the break.
Cool. So
Yeah.
what else would you like to tell our listeners out there? I know we had a little shaky connection and you're on the phone right now. Maybe you can talk some highlights on your organization. How long has it been around, and also who else is involved with the American Indian Policy Center?
Well, right now I've taken a hiatus from the policy center myself, so we're not doing much work right now at the center. I'm doing most of it just myself, and still doing a bit of work here and there. But it's still trying to move some of the issues, and most of it having to do with local. We were doing regional work, and sometimes kind of in the 5-state area of North, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. But we've kind of sort of settled down into the local, mostly Minnesota, mostly with the tribes in Minnesota, of Dakota and Anishinaabe. I'm getting up there in years now that I don't do a whole lot of traveling. It's mostly on the computer and telephone, and once in a while I do get out onto the reservations and some of the tribal meetings. But as you know, nowadays you can do a lot of work on a computer. You don't have to do a lot of that jetting about the country anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So you talked about writing this curriculum. It's not only for Native kids, am I correct? It's also for anyone in the school districts here in Minnesota that want to learn and also need to learn, because it is a law now in Minnesota that they have to teach curriculum on Native American history.
Yeah, the last year they did pass a law to make it mandatory that they include in the curriculum items about the American Indian, but it isn't about the culture and about the history. So, like, we're approaching it, we're making it more clear to have the traditional ways of the American Indian incorporated into the curriculum, and we're using the oral history, the traditional ways of American Indians. The way the last year's law is, it provides for the language in the law is very light. It isn't very specific about what they mean. About, it doesn't get down into saying who should do what. It just kind of talks about cultural history and that kind of thing. What we're talking about in our provisions is we're going to use skilled, knowledgeable, expert people, and that means people who have actual experience, and this means the elders from usually they live on the reservation yet. That doesn't mean that the elders only live on the reservation, but it's more than likely they still live on the reservation. We do have elders who live in the urban setting and possess knowledge about the traditional Indian ways, but for the most part, that's where we would secure those people. But we also have people who aren't necessarily elders who have learned the language, and they've went out and they've learned the ways by searching out the elders and have learned from them. So we have some crossover knowledge and very skilled people who are younger. They don't have to be elders, of course. So those are the people who we'll use to make packages of information. For example, they'll be recorded, and we'll use those recordings in the classrooms rather than having the elders and folks having to travel to classroom. We'll be able to use for convenience sake the recordings throughout the state, and so it's kind of we're asking for $200,000 to do this. So it's a one-shot deal. It's more like a pilot program. Of course, we'll come back, and we expect that we'll be successful in this, and we'll return to the legislature again and we expect to be successful with this, and we'll return to have it funded again and again, of course.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to wish you all the luck in the world, and it sounds like you definitely have this going on. How can we support your work here on Native Roots Radio?
You could. We could let you know when the hearings come up. We could let you know when who the legislators are, and ask you to give support to us for them, or what committee is coming up. We could ask, for support via the airwaves that way. Whomever would be willing to call their legislators. That's of course one of the ways.
That's perfect. We can definitely do that, and we'll have you back on when we get closer to those dates of the hearings, and so we can reach out to our representatives. John, I really appreciate all you've done over the years, and then the work you're working on now. And reach out to us, and Haley will get you back on, and we'll be talking more about this curriculum and how you're working for our Native community, and we really appreciate you.
Okay, I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, John. John's a founder and president of the American Indian Policy Center in St. Paul. Thank you so much for being on.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck to you.
All right. Pinagigi. Wow, Haley, that's awesome. Awesome stuff going on.
Yeah.
John's a elder, and I know I see John in the community all the time, and a well-respected elder. And as you heard, he has been working in the school board and in this for our people here, and so it's just been great to hear from our elder, and we can't wait to have him on when this bill gets closer.
Yeah, well, and it's just really great to hear how much he cares and the revitalization of, just American Indian culture and getting people to understand that we're still here. And, with the bill passing, like Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we have, that day that is required once a year in public schools where, the education is around American Indians. And I remember hearing, I can't remember exactly what day that took place on, but a lot of teachers around the state in our public schools ended up not even teaching any curriculum around Native Americans or American Indians because they didn't have any lesson plans or anything to go off of that they thought was true or represented us, our tribes in Minnesota correctly. So I think doing something like this is so important, just to have these lessons in our public schools and just have, kind of something to go off of when it comes to teaching our culture truthfully in public schools to our allies.
Yeah, really super good point. And I know we've talked about that, and just a second.
Yeah. Well, I think Mary, we could definitely talk to Senator Mary Kunesh about that. Mary usually joins us every Friday, and I know she's been traveling across the state to many public schools, elementary schools, and just kind of getting a feel for what do the teachers know about the American Indian culture, and what, kind of resources can we put into these schools where, they don't have an issue where they can't teach something because they don't know about it.
Right, exactly. And sometimes that is an excuse where, we can definitely talk about what we have going on here. And so I just want to again just say how much we really appreciate John and John Poupart and the work he's done, and just such a well-respected elder, and it was such our privilege to have him on. I can't wait to have him on again.
Yeah, me too. And everyone, in our community here in the Twin Cities, our urban Native community, I feel like knows John in a good way or knows his name in a good way. And so big Pinagigi again to John for coming on. And just want to mention the Indigiboxes, which we've had on CEO Barb Faber of All Nations Rise and Indigenous Visioning. They've put together those boxes that schools can actually order. And I know we have 30 seconds left here until break, but those are really, really great resources too if you just want to get a craft or something for elementary school kiddos in the classroom.
Oh yeah, good call. And we're gonna have Wendy back on along with it looks like along with Wanda. Wanda just waved to us.
Oh, Wanda.
Hey, right on. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be back in just a moment.
We are Alusa Nation.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Life can be hectic. Sometimes the pressure can feel like too much, and the emotions can be overwhelming. Hennepin County's COPE Mobile Crisis Response is here to listen and help you find a way through whatever is going on in your life. Call 612-596-1223 for no-cost crisis support anytime, anywhere in Hennepin County. That number is 612-596-1223.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
All My Relations Arts presents Okizi. Okizi means to heal, and the exhibition highlights the healing power of cultural revitalization for Native communities. Okizi showcases prints, mixed media, textiles, beadwork, digital collage, and glass sculptures by Native American and Sami artists. It explores Indigenous communities' active healing efforts through language revitalization, land back movements, and embracing traditional knowledge. Visit All My Relations Arts to experience Okizi through April 13th. More information at allmyrelationsarts.org.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Oh! Hey, back to the show here. We got Wendy coming back with Wanda, but before we touch base with Wendy, I know she was going to talk a little bit about the Wolf Day at the Capitol, but also I'm sure she's got some other things to talk about. And Haley, before we get to Wendy, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the Twin Cities here this Friday.
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought we would give our friend Ruth Buffalo and our friends over at the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center a shout out. They are having a spring market this Friday, April 5th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at 2300 15th Avenue South in Minneapolis. Again, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center is having a spring market. So there will be a bunch of vendors out there, a bunch of friends, and a lot of good crafts to go spend all your monies on. So I will definitely be out there hanging out.
Right on. Hey, Wendy, thanks for coming back on. And I know you got some more information, and we love to talk about our sacred animals. And we had such a good time these past few days going to see the speaker and what else you got for us? I know you're able to pull stuff out of your hat here, so welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to remind everybody for Wolf Day. Wolf Day is sponsored by Howling for Wolves, and it's going to be at the Minnesota State Capitol on Wednesday, April 17th. You have to go online and register, and when you register, you will get a T-shirt, and then you are also will receive an appointment to sit with your local legislators and tell them why it's important to ban wolf hunting and trapping in Minnesota for good. So that's what we want to do. Yeah,
right
definitely. On. Yeah. Earlier in the show, I was talking about going to see Dr. Jane Goodall. I just heard a noise. I have no idea what that was. But
somebody's buzzing with our food.
Oh, you're kidding. Okay,
I'll get it while you talk.
At the door. It wasn't supposed to be here. Okay, so I want to talk about Dr. Jane Goodall. Like I said earlier, tomorrow's her birthday. She's going to be 90 years old, and she is mostly known for her work with chimpanzees, but she's also a conservationist and an animal activist. And she has the Jane Goodall Institute, and she has many of these. I think she said there's 17 of them all over the world, and they provide care for orphaned animals, and they do all kinds of wonderful work. And the one portion of the show last night when we saw her at the Beacon Theater in Manhattan was she actually had a Q&A. And I mean, practically the whole audience, I mean, it's a big theater, got up to ask her questions. And I thought it was like, wow, she's just going to randomly listen to these people, and she has no idea what they're going to ask her, right? I thought that was very brave of her, because I think that there's some people who could, be mean. But anyway, everybody was really nice and asked them questions. But there was a little girl who came up and asked her what her favorite breed of dog was. And Jane right away said, a mutt. A mutt is my favorite breed, and I want everyone to go to the shelter and get a dog. That's how I want you to, get your dogs to go to the shelter. So I was really happy that she talked about that. She just really talked about like animals and how they have feelings, and they feel sad and happy and anxious. And she's been studying animals her entire life, and she knows this for a fact. In fact, in the 1960s, she was a woman, right? She was, I think she was like 26 years old at the time. She said, and not many women were scientists at that time, in the 60s. And she was doing unprecedented work, working and doing observations on these chimpanzees and really learning so much about them. But she was the first to discover that chimpanzees use tools. And she said, that they would break off thin branches and they'd have to take all the leaves off the branches, and then they would put the branch inside like an anthole. And then all the ants would go on the stick, and they take the stick out, and then they would eat all the ants. So, when she observed this and then documented it, the world of science was like, what? At that time, and it doesn't seem that long ago, but they didn't know that, that chimpanzees use tools. And it was just like really interesting. There's so many things that she talked about. The one thing that I want to bring up that she really talked about is like factory farming and how horrible factory farming is, not only for the animals, but for the environment and for people, for everyone. Factory farming is horrible. So anytime you go to the grocery store and you go to the meat section, all those dead animals are from factory farms. I just want to say that. Unless you go to a personal farmer or a family farmer who butchers their animals, that you're getting animals from a factory farm. And there's a New York Times article that from today, I just brought it up, and it said that is giving farmers millions to kill millions of chickens the way to curb bird flu. So there's a very dangerous bird flu going on right now. But these big, giant poultry industries, the government just gives them money to cull the chickens, so to kill the chickens, right? The government says, well, we want the big corporations, we're giving them money, and we want these big corporations to tell us right away when there's this dangerous bird flu going on. And the way that they'll do that is if we give them millions of dollars so that they can cull these chickens. And the way they cull the chickens, I think cull is like the word harvest when you're hunting. Cull means, what cull means? How they kill these animals is they raise the temperatures in the barns and they shut off the fans, and the chickens slowly die of heat stroke. And this is how these animals are killed. Now, if the animals were kept, and they weren't kept in such confined, horrible conditions, we wouldn't have a bird flu. But it's a lot more expensive, right? For the poultry farmers to keep these animals like walking around outside and seeing the sunshine. That's not how these animals are raised. These animals are raised in barns where they can't hardly even turn around. Even if they're cage free, they're in a barn where they can't even turn around. There's thousands and thousands of these birds. And that's how these flus and all these viruses are happening. Actually, there is a case where the bird flu went to a cow, and a person got the bird flu from a cow. So this could be a very dangerous problem. And because of these mass agricultural factory farms where these animals are jam-packed, it's just really horrible. And there's a farmer on in this article in the New York Times. It's from today. You could look it up. I have a subscription to the New York Times. I think you have to have a subscription to read it. But anyway, you might be able to just read this thing that they're saying that the chickens are so genetically modified right now that the chickens grow so fast. So they get nice big fat, chicken breasts. So you could cook the chicken breast, but the birds grow so fast, and that they have arthritis, they have heart disease, they have high blood pressure because they grow so fast and they're killed really fast. But this is what you're eating. Like, people don't know what they're eating. Read this article to find out what's going on. If you don't want to know what's going on, just put your blinders on and go live a happy life. But if you want to know what's going on, read the New York Times article. And if you want to eat meat, get it locally where the animal lived outside.
Yeah, like Jane said, what we talk about native art is find out where you're getting your food from.
Exactly.
Ask questions. That's what she was talking about. Good call, Wendy. Thanks a lot for jumping back on. This has been Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. We'll see you tomorrow. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier. Now.
Cafe Latte offers made from scratch soups,